My name's Mike Bursell. I am the Executive Director of the Confidential Computing Consortium, which is a Linux Foundation project and is the industry body basically for confidential computing.
And I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us, Mike.
You're welcome.
Mike, can you tell us some of your favorite stories about obstacles, challenges that confidential computing has sought to engage with for organizations?
Absolutely. So one of the key things is that people know, organizations know how important it is to protect their sensitive data and their customers' sensitive data. You know, we've seen some really big breaches of data over the last few years. You know, huge billions of records exposed, and confidential computing is a really great way of fixing and helping with that, because it protects data not just when it's in storage or on the network, but actually when it's in use, when it's being processed in RAM on the machine that's going on. So, you know, it may be that previously you were unhappy about putting your data, your customers' data, in the cloud, for instance, because, well, you know, you only have certain controls that you can put in place and nothing technological. Confidential computing allows you to have those technical and technological controls and really big cryptographically based assurances that that data, and in fact the algorithms running that data, are safe. So whether it's regulators or auditors or just, you know, concern about your customers' data that's driving you to protect it better, whether it's on the cloud or you know, to protect against in-house threats or on the edge or whatever, confidential computing allows you to do that because it protects the data in use.
Wonderful. And what does success look like? What kinds of stories have you heard, or should we ask your members about the positive business outcomes, new opportunities enabled as a result of successful implementation of confidential computing?
Absolutely. I think there's a number of things. Firstly is being able to address these issues and deploy applications in places you couldn't before, or at scale in ways you couldn't before. Because, you know, keeping a whole bunch of computational power in-house is not always a good way to go. You want to be able to put stuff in the cloud, for instance. So I think, you know, those, what could you do before that you couldn't, is an obvious one just in terms of existing things. But there's new business models as well. Absolutely being able to share your data in ways that you can prove to people you're sharing it to that you can't look at it directly. You can process it, but not in ways which are unexpected for them. So whether you might be doing financial and fraud data or pharmaceutical research or healthcare, or had some really interesting ones around geophysical exploration, where you've got, you know, these big data sets that you don't want to share the full data with, but you want to be able to get information out of. These are all some really useful new ways of doing business beyond just the let's protect stuff better. These are what can we do that's new. And of course, the other big one is AI. Because people, you know, you may have heard of AI, it's kind of a big thing at the moment, and certainly, you know, everyone in the industry that we're talking with is desperate to find ways to use AIs in ways which is safer and protects not only the training data that you're using, but actually the data, the inference itself, so that you know that not only are the prompts and the responses protected, but the actual core data and the core models that are providing those. And the advent of new technologies, even within confidential computing, not just in CPUs, but GPUs, is leading to the opportunities to do that now.
What percentage would you guess of confidential computing is going on today inside of AI versus other use cases other than AI, and how do you see that changing?
Yeah, I think not huge yet, and that's solely to do with availability of hardware, and that's ramping up very, very quickly. So availability of GPUs which have confidential computing capabilities is ramping up very quickly. There's been some technology required, of course, to sort of couple all that together, also happening very, very quickly. So I would suspect it's low percentage figures And it's going to go up very, very quickly as the hardware becomes available, because people are absolutely desperate to do this. I spoke to a large investment bank, global investment bank, a few weeks ago, who is absolutely desperate to be using AI, cannot do so because they can't afford to do it in-house and they're not allowed to do it in the cloud.
How are you seeing organizations, whether that be the vendors or the buyers, change their confidential computing strategy now, mid-2024, relative to last year or earlier this year?
I think the big thing is more people are finding out about it. It's been one of those sort of hidden secrets. People have started to worry about this but haven't known how to know about it. So one of the things we're doing as Consortium is putting a lot of effort into things like this summit, the Confidential Computing Summit, but also other conferences and other sort of outreach and marketing to let people know about it. Because when it comes down to it, if your CISO's never heard of this, it's all very well if your techie's heard of it, they're not going to accept it. If the regulator doesn't know about it, if the standards body doesn't know about it, you're not going to get very far in terms of pushing solutions and these new business models without that visibility and the assurances that this is real tech. It's not just stuff that's turned up over the last sort of 15 months and you can just throw it. This is really well-established tech from well-established companies and some really exciting startups as well, which is happening too.
Where do you see the industry and confidential computing in general going in the near term, and where do you think it should go?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, we're going to be seeing a lot more AI. We're going to be seeing people realizing that they need to be addressing the regulators, they need to be addressing the standards bodies. And the other place that I think we have to be going is attestation. So attestation is a core part of confidential computing. It's what allows you to go to your auditor or go to a third party and say, or a partner and say, look, what is happening is really protected. I've got proof, cryptographic proof. So it's absolutely part of the bigger story. And we need to have a better understanding of how that works and the business models to allow things really to take off. If the industry is going to sort of it's to light that fuse on the firework, we need attestation really to be there. We've got the hardware now, we have the models of how you can use it. AI has given us a whole bunch of interesting new use cases. Attestation is really going to help light that fuse and make things take off, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful. Will you tell us about the consortium, about your role in it, about the purpose of the organization?
Absolutely. So the Confidential Computing Consortium was founded in 2019. We're up to around 50 members or so. We have all of the major silicon vendors and producers who are members, a number of research and academic and non-profit institutions, and a whole bunch of kind of people as general members, including startups and some very large companies as well. We're a Linux Foundation project, and we're about open collaboration. We have somewhere between 11 and 14 open source projects. It keeps going up, which is why I can't remember exactly where at the moment, which are, yes, projects which are open source and either use confidential computing or allow confidential computing to be enabled in new sorts of ways. And so we are a forum as well where competing companies can work together in a safe way, which, because of the way we work, they don't need to worry about antitrust issues, for instance. So, for instance, we've got a technical group working on low-level Linux kernel issues where we have all of the major silicon vendors who, of course, are fiercely competitive out in a broader market, but here they can work together to ease the adoption and to raise the adoption of these technologies. Oh, and you asked about my role. So I joined as executive director early in 2023, having been one of the founding members when I was at Red Hat and then as a startup. And I take a strategic view of where we should be going, working very closely with the members and the governing board to identify what we should be doing, working closely with members, trying to push forward our strategic focuses for the next few months, and also think what should be happening after that.
Great. Will you give us a feel for some of those open source projects? Will you pick a few that you can highlight?
I hate to play favorites, but so there's a number of different ones. So We have somewhere between 11 and 14, 15, I can't remember, the numbers go up, we keep adding new ones. But things like, I talked about the combination of CPUs and GPUs. We've got a really interesting project which allows you to use the Rust language to combine the trust metrics across those, and so they can work together. We've got an interesting project on attestation generally. We've got another one which is a framework which allows you to build applications using the framework and do the attestation yourself. There's one called NARCs, which I was the founder of, which provides basically an operating system, a mini operating system with a microkernel within trusted execution environments. Basically, the view of the consortium is, if you have an open source project which either uses confidential computing or furthers the aims of confidential computing and helps to make it easier, we're really interested to talk to you about the projects. And we have some very interesting ones coming up, so which I can't yet talk about, but hopefully in the next couple of months they're going to be joining us.
Great. Let me conclude with this. I'm curious what, both for you personally and for the consortium, what are your goals and hopes for confidential computing and its impacts, both in the near term and in the long term?
So in the near term, it's about visibility. People realizing that it's a real option and it's a way to be deploying things in new ways. And I talk about vacuum cleaner problems. So nobody really, or almost nobody, wants to buy a new vacuum cleaner, right? You buy a new vacuum cleaner because you've moved to a new house, you've got more space, or you've now got a pet who sheds, or the kids are growing up and they're dropping Oreo on the floor, or the last one broke, or what. Nobody really likes buying a vacuum cleaner. And many security technologies are vacuum cleaner technologies, right? You buy them because you need to satisfy your regulator or your auditor or your CFO or your CISO or board, whatever. You buy it because you have to. It's about tick boxes. I really think that confidential computing enables new things, new opportunities, new business models. And if we and our members can show that these are enabling technologies, not vacuum cleaner technologies, then I think that's a great place. In the longer term, I think we're going to get to the place where it's not, why should I put this application or this data in a confidential computing environment? But why wouldn't I? It becomes the obvious thing to do to put anything you're doing in a confidential computing environment because it's easy and cheap and safe. And you only don't do it for very specific reasons rather than the other way around. And I think we're going to get towards that.